At 5:43 that morning, single father Ethan Walker stood before 86 workers and admitted that the lie keeping their factory alive was his. Beside him, CEO Vivian Hale held the closure order she was supposed to sign at 6. 17 minutes remained. If Ethan stayed quiet, the factory might survive, but the workers could lose the severance protecting their families. If Vivian exposed him, she could save her career and destroy his. Before sunrise, both would learn the same brutal lesson. Protecting people without telling them the truth is still taking away their choice. 6 hours earlier, Ethan handed Vivian a blank time card. It was 11:43 on Friday night. The card lay between them on the dispatch desk, clean except for the faint blue lines marking where a name, an employee number, and a shift were supposed to go. Vivian looked at it, then at the closure order inside her open portfolio. You understand I can still close this place at 6. Ethan slid a pen across the desk. I understand you shouldn't close what you've never seen working. Beyond the office glass, Ashford Toolworks moved through its final night shift. Presses shaped flat steel into drawers and cabinet doors. Welders worked behind blue curtains. Finished tool cabinets rolled toward packaging under amber lights. There was no hidden disaster waiting for a hero. The plant cost too much to operate, delivered too late, and had been losing money for 18 months. At 6, lines 1, 2, and 3 were scheduled to stop. 86 people would lose their jobs. Vivian picked up the pen but did not use it. If one night proves you wrong, then I'll tell them myself. Her eyes stayed on him for a moment. Ethan had expected an expensive coat, polished shoes, and someone who would remain behind glass while other people handled the noise. The coat was expensive. The shoes probably were too, but Vivian took both off, folded the coat over a chair, and asked where the protective gear was kept. Ethan pointed toward the wall. Safety glasses, hearing protection, steel toe covers, and the time clock. He nodded toward the hallway. Vivian wrote her name on the card in compact block letters. Then she walked out of the office and punched in at 11:47. The mechanical stamp sounded small against the presses, but every worker close enough to hear it looked up. Rosa Alvarez, the night shift assembler and elected worker representative, watched Vivian return the card to Ethan. Does that mean she's staying? Rosa asked. It means she clocked in, Ethan said. That isn't what I asked. It's all I know. Vivian heard him. She adjusted the steel toe covers over her shoes and addressed Rosa directly. The closure order is still scheduled for 6. I'm here to observe this shift, not make promises. The nearby workers returned to their stations. They had heard enough careful language to recognize a sentence designed not to be quoted later. Ethan walked Vivian toward line 3. It was the smallest of the 3 lines, producing heavy-duty mobile workbenches for garages and maintenance shops. It was also the only line with orders beyond the end of the quarter. You want me to see your best line? Vivian said. I want you to see the one a buyer could use without rebuilding the floor. You know about a buyer. Ethan stopped. Vivian's expression had not changed, but the question had. There were rumors, he said. Rumors aren't an answer. Then no. I don't know about a buyer. She continued walking. The unanswered question followed them. At 12:02, line 3 stopped. The conveyor did not jerk or crash. It simply went still. A yellow indicator appeared on the control panel, and the rhythmic clank of fixtures locking into place disappeared. People turned toward Ethan. He did not run. He asked the operator what she had heard before the stop, checked the position sensors, and opened a side panel with the machine isolated. Vivian stood behind the marked line and watched. How long? She asked. If it's the sensor, 10 minutes. If it's the harness, 40. Which is it? I haven't looked yet. She seemed almost surprised by the answer. Ethan found a loose connector at the lower sensor. He reseated it, checked the cable, and had the operator run the restart procedure. The conveyor moved again at 12:11. 9 minutes. No applause followed. The workers simply returned to pace, making up seconds wherever they could. Vivian wrote something in a small notebook. That happens often, she asked. Often enough. That isn't a number. 9 minutes is tonight. Yes. Ethan looked at her notebook but could not read the line. They followed the cabinets through welding and finishing. Vivian asked operators what slowed them down and waited for honest answers. When an assembler corrected her description of a fixture, she used the right word afterward. At 12:24, they passed Nora Bell at final inspection. Nora had worked at Ashford for 27 years. She held a tape measure in one hand and checked drawer alignment with the other. "Miss Hey," Nora said. Vivian stopped. "Thank you for the 12 weeks. Ethan looked from Nora to Vivian. Nora continued before either could respond. "It won't replace the job, but it gives my husband and me time to decide whether we can keep the house." Vivian nodded once. "You should have had more notice." "We should have had the truth," Nora said. Notice would have followed. Vivian accepted that without defending herself. When they moved on, Ethan asked. The board approved 12 weeks. 12 weeks pay. 90 days of health coverage. Training support for anyone who takes it. We were told 4. That was the first proposal. Who changed it? Vivian did not answer immediately. "I did." Ethan had built his anger around an image of her arriving to reduce 86 lives to one clean signature. That image did not disappear, but it cracked. "Why didn't you tell them?" "Because the agreement wasn't final until yesterday. It is now. If the shutdown is orderly and the records supporting it are accurate," the last word landed harder than the others. At 12:37, Vivian asked to see Line 3's downtime record. Ethan did not hesitate visibly. He led her to the terminal beside the supervisor's station and opened the weekly report. The screen showed each interruption by date, length, and cause. Planned maintenance appeared in blue. Unplanned stops appeared in red. There was less red than Vivian expected. "This line reported 81% uptime over 9 weeks, she said. "That's what the report says. What do you say?" "That the line is running tonight." Vivian closed the report, but not the question. At 12:46, Ethan's phone vibrated inside his shirt pocket. Mia had sent a message. "Robotics trip got canceled. Don't worry about the payment." He read it twice. The trip cost $240. Due Monday. He had promised they would find a way, then started saying after Friday and when we know more. He typed, "I'm sorry." 3 dots appeared and disappeared. Finally, Mia sent, "Not your fault." Ethan put the phone away. Vivian had moved several feet ahead, but she was waiting. "Everything all right? My daughter's school trip was canceled." He said it easily enough that he almost believed it. Vivian looked toward his pocket, then back to the line. "I'm sorry. She'll be fine." It was the phrase Ethan used whenever he had made a decision Mia had not been allowed to make. At 12:58, Vivian stepped onto a workstation beside Rosa to position drawer slides. Vivian's first set sat too high. "Again," Vivian said. The second aligned. She stayed for 12 cabinets, then stepped away before slowing Rosa's pace. "You knew when to leave the station," he said. "That is apparently a leadership skill people notice only when it's missing." It was the first time that night he nearly smiled. At 1:11, Nora approached with 2 paper cups of coffee. She gave one to Ethan and offered the other to Vivian. "Does this mean we're staying open?" Nora asked. Every nearby movement seemed to quiet. Vivian held the cup but did not drink. "No." The word was clean and immediate. "It means I'm looking at the line before I sign. I won't tell you that is more than it is." Nora nodded. Disappointment passed across her face, but not contempt. Ethan understood why. A false promise would have felt kinder for 10 minutes. Vivian had chosen the harder form of respect. At 1:18, her phone rang. She stepped into the supervisor's office but left the door partly open. Ethan could hear only fragments. 6 remains the deadline. "No, I have not represented otherwise. I understand the resolution." Then a pause. "You have my signature at 6 or my resignation before it." Vivian ended the call and stood with both hands on the desk. Ethan remained outside. "That sounded flexible," he said. "The board has already extended the review." "By how much?" 12 days. "You delayed it. I asked for evidence. They gave me 12 days to find it. And tonight is the last one. Tonight is the part you can see." She returned to the terminal and reopened the downtime report. This time, she compared it against the machine's internal event history. The 2 records did not match. At 1:31, Vivian turned the screen toward Ethan. "The machine shows 63 hours of unplanned stops. The supervisor's report showed 11. 47 hours are listed as tooling changes," she said. 16 is scheduled electrical work." Ethan placed his coffee on the desk. "The work happened. During failures, the report says were planned. We fixed what stopped. You changed the reason it stopped." The machines outside continued cycling. Each impact reached the office a fraction of a second after the last, like a clock no one had asked for. "Who edited these entries?" Vivian asked. Ethan looked at the screen. I did. She waited for a second name. None came. Did the plant manager authorize it? No. Did Rosa know? No. Did anyone know? Vivian closed the office door. Then tell me why. 9 weeks earlier, the board had set a threshold. If line 3 fell below 80% reported uptime, closure would move forward immediately. The enhanced severance agreement was still 6 weeks from taking effect. Ethan understood what immediate meant. Workers would lose 8 weeks of pay, health coverage, and training funds. So he had changed one code, then another. He never altered the number of cabinets produced. He never concealed a safety inspection. He never told a machine to run when it should have been locked out. He changed why lost hours were labeled. The lines stayed above 80% on paper. The closure stayed in review. 6 weeks passed. The enhanced package became binding if the supporting records were accurate. I bought them 6 weeks, Ethan said. Vivian's voice remained quiet. With their severance as collateral. Without those 6 weeks, there was no severance. And now the board can freeze it while they investigate. That would punish 85 people for something I did. Boards are very good at calling punishment procedure. He studied her expression. Are you going to tell them? You're asking the wrong question. What is the right one? Why did you think you had the right not to tell the workers? Ethan looked through the glass at people he had worked beside for 13 years. Because they needed time. They needed a choice. Between what? Losing 4 weeks from now or losing 6 weeks ago? Between knowing what you risked in their names and being grateful for a lie they never agreed to. He had no answer that did not sound like the answer he had already given himself. At 1:47, Vivian removed his supervisor access to the test. You don't touch the reporting terminal again tonight. You need me on the floor. The floor is not the report. And if the line stops, you can advise the operator. Rosa authorizes the work. Ethan's jaw tightened. You trust her? I trust that she knows what authority she has. The distinction was deliberate. Outside the office, Rosa read their faces. What happened? Ethan answered before Vivian could. She's running the test now. Why? Because she is. Rosa looked at Vivian. Is this about the closure? Vivian said. It is about information I need to verify. Neither of them lied. Neither told Rosa enough to choose what to do with the truth. At 2:03, line 3 fell 12 units behind the overnight target. Ethan stood outside the work cell while Rosa coordinated the operators. He knew where the delay was collecting, but waited until she asked. The drawer fixtures are arriving unevenly. He said, move one person from packaging for 20 minutes. You'll recover 6 units. Rosa made the call. Vivian recorded the change in its result. They recovered 7. The success did not repair anything between Ethan and Vivian. It proved only that they could still work while angry. At 2:14, Rosa found Ethan near the vending machines. People need to know she's here, she said. They know. Night shift knows. Day shift is home thinking the doors lock at 6. That is still what happens. Then why is she on the floor? To make a decision, she already made it. Rosa raised her phone. On the screen was a short video of Vivian aligning drawer slides while the line moved behind her. Post this and the town sees she hasn't walked away. No. Ethan. Not without asking her. Rosa lowered the phone. Disappointed but not surprised. You always decide when people can handle something. She walked away before he could ask what she meant. At 2:26, Ethan's phone rang. The caller was Mia's school counselor. Mr. Walker, I'm sorry to call this late. I saw your email saying Mia's robotics trip was canceled, but the trip is still scheduled. Mia withdrew this afternoon. She asked us not to contact you about the fee. The counselor kept talking, but Ethan heard only the first part. Mia had not lied because she wanted something. She had lied to protect him from knowing what his uncertainty had cost her. He stepped into the quiet loading corridor and called. Mia answered on the 4th ring. Dad. The trip wasn't canceled. Silence. Who called you? That isn't the point. It kind of is. Why didn't you tell me? Because you don't have $240. We would have figured it out. That's what you say when you mean you'll figure it out and tell me afterward. Ethan leaned against the cold block wall. You shouldn't have to worry about my job. Then stop making me guess. The directness hurt because it was familiar. Are you coming home? She asked. After 6? Is the factory closing? He looked through the door window at Vivian walking beside the line. I don't know. It was the first complete truth he had given Mia that night. Okay, she said. Not relieved, not reassured, but included. At 2:41, Vivian summoned Ethan back to the office. On the desk was a 2-page letter from Midstate Industrial Works. It offered to lease Line 3 for 90 days while evaluating a longer purchase. 31 current employees would remain on payroll during the review. The offer depended on 3 things: a clean overnight production test, verified records, and confidentiality until both companies approved an announcement. "You found this before tonight," Ethan said. 8 days ago, 31 jobs. Temporarily, no promise beyond 90 days. Why hide it? Because if I told 86 people that 31 might stay, every conversation tonight would become a contest for those places. And if the test failed, I would have given them a future that never existed. So you decided they couldn't handle the truth. Vivian took the blow without looking away. I decided an unapproved offer wasn't the truth yet. That sounds cleaner. It is not cleaner. It is the line I chose. Ethan looked again at the letter. Vivian had not joined the shift because his time card awakened a conscience she had forgotten. She had arrived with a narrow, imperfect plan already in motion. For the second time that night, the story he had told himself about her broke apart. "The line can make the target," he said. "The equipment might. The records may void the offer. Tell Midstate what I changed. I will. And tell them no one else knew. I will tell them what I can prove. I'm telling you, you also told the system 47 failed hours were planned." He had earned that answer. At 2:57, Vivian's phone lit with messages. She read the first and handed the phone to Ethan. The board's audit team had found the discrepancy remotely. "Stop the test. Preserve all records. Execute closure at 0600. A second message followed. "Enhanced separation package pending review. The 12 weeks, the health coverage, and the training support were now frozen." Ethan read it twice. They can't take it from everyone. They can delay it. For some families, delay will feel exactly like losing it. "Call them. I am calling them. Then tell them this was me. I intend to." Vivian dialed. The call went to a board conference line. Her voice was controlled, but Ethan heard the pressure increasing with each answer. "The discrepancy appears limited to one supervisor. No, I will not characterize the entire workforce as complicit. Line 3 is 23 units from the test target." She listened. "Stopping now destroys evidence of current viability." Another pause. "Then record my objection." The call ended. "They said no," Ethan said. "They said sign at 6. And the Line 3 offer?" "Paused until Midstate understands whether I misrepresented the plant. You didn't. They have a public company to protect. They do not know that." Outside, the line continued because Vivian had not yet ordered it stopped. At 3:12, Rosa returned. "Day shift heard there's an audit. People are asking if the package is gone." The employee group had been active all night. A local labor reporter had followed the closure all week. With a 6 o'clock decision coming, Ashford was awake. Vivian said, "It is under review." Rosa's face hardened. "That means gone. It means I cannot promise it. You can tell them you're still here." Rosa held up the video again. Vivian shook her head. "Do not publish my image or represent that the closure is being reconsidered." The boundary was explicit. Ethan heard it. At 3:20, the line was 16 units from target. The board called Vivian again. This time, the message was shorter. If she continued negotiating after the audit notice, her authority over the transition would be suspended. When she ended the call, Ethan asked, "How long until they remove you?" "That depends on whether they believe I'm trying to force their hand." Rosa looked from Vivian to the moving line. "Then maybe somebody should." Vivian returned to the office. Rosa turned to Ethan. "One post. The town sees her working. The board cannot pretend this was decided without anyone looking." She said no. She gets a vote. "So do we?" "It's her image. It's our floor." Ethan looked at the video. Vivian was not embarrassed or compromised in it. She looked competent, focused, and present. The caption Rosa had drafted said the closure was being reconsidered. That part was not true. But if the public believed it for 1 hour, the board might delay. 1 hour might finish the test. A finished test might revive Midstate. A revived offer might protect 31 jobs and make it harder to freeze the package. Ethan had built an entire moral language around minutes bought for other people. "Change the caption," he said. Rosa waited. He should have walked into the office. He should have asked. Instead, he dictated, "CEO Vivian Hale is working beside Ashford employees tonight while the closure is being reconsidered." Rosa searched his face. Is it? Post it. At 3:28, the video went online. By 3:36, it had moved through the employee group and into the town's parent, church, and union networks. At 3:43, the reporter called to confirm Vivian had reopened negotiations. Rosa did not answer, but the question began moving. At 3:50, the day shift phone tree started. Workers left home because the woman with authority appeared to be reconsidering the closure. At 3:56, the link reached Midstate's overnight negotiator, who had been waiting for the 6 o'clock decision. Midstate paused its offer, citing unauthorized disclosure and uncertainty about who could speak for Hale Industrial. At 4:01, the board suspended Vivian's authority to continue the Line 3 discussion. At 4:03, Vivian walked out of the office holding her phone. She did not raise her voice. Who approved the caption? Rosa looked toward Ethan. He stepped forward. I did. Vivian's eyes moved to him, then to the red share count climbing on the screen. I told you not to publish it. You told Rosa. You were standing beside her. The board was going to shut everything down, and now Midstate has paused the 31 jobs I spent 8 days protecting. Public pressure can bring them back. You do not know that. Neither do you. Vivian came closer, stopping well outside his reach. You used my name the same way you used their numbers. You decided the truth could wait until it helped you. The line continued behind them. Ethan wanted to tell her the clip showed only what she had actually done. He wanted to say the board had left no honest tool that could work fast enough. Both statements were partly true. Neither answered what she had said. I was trying to keep the door open, he said. You keep calling it protection when you mean control. She turned away. At 4:12, Line 3 reached the overnight target. The final cabinet rolled past inspection with a defect rate below 2%. Rosa marked the count. A few workers began to clap, then stopped when they saw Vivian standing alone near the office. The machines had proved the line could work. Ethan's choice had helped make the proof unusable. Victory arrived, and no one knew whether it had saved anything. At 4:20, cars began entering the employee lot. Day shift workers came through the doors wearing jackets over work clothes. Some brought spouses. Others carried coffee and phones displaying the video. Is it true? One man asked Ethan. Is she keeping us open? Ethan looked at the caption he had approved. The test passed, he said. That isn't what I asked. It was the same answer Rosa had given him 6 hours earlier. Ethan said, no decision has changed. Relief left the man's face. Then why did you post that? Ethan had no answer. He could offer one person without owing it to all 86. At 4:30, Vivian received 2 documents from the board. The first was the original closure order. It closed all 3 lines and placed severance under review. Signing it preserved her position while the board investigated Ethan. The second was not a document the board wanted signed. It was Vivian's own draft from 2 days earlier. Close lines 1 and 2. Maintain line 3 for a 90-day transition. Preserve severance for employees not involved in misconduct. And fund retraining. Before the clip, she had authority to submit that draft if the production test passed. After the clip, the board said using that authority would be treated as deliberate defiance. She placed both documents on the desk. At 4:39, Ethan called Mia. I lied at work, he said. There was no gentle opening. No promise that everything would be all right. About what? Numbers. I changed them so the factory wouldn't close before people qualified for help. Did it work? For a while. What happens now? They could lose the help because I changed them. Mia was quiet. Do they know? Not all of it. You keep saying people deserve the truth. She did not tell him what to do. She did not say he was a good man or a bad one. She asked only, did you give it to them? Ethan looked through the office glass. More workers were arriving. Not yet. Then I don't know what you want me to say. He closed his eyes. Nothing. I wanted you to know. Okay. The word did not forgive him. It did something more useful. It left the choice where it belonged. At 4:52, Ethan found Rosa near the lockers. Call everyone, he said. They're already coming. All 86. Tell them to be on the main floor at 5:30. What are you going to say? What I changed? What the board froze? What Vivian didn't approve? Rosa studied him. That could end the package. The package is already at risk. It could end your job. That part isn't at risk anymore. He removed his supervisor badge and placed it in his pocket. At 5:05, Vivian found him writing on a maintenance clipboard. "What are you doing?" "My resignation. That does not fix the records." "No. It does not restore my authority." "No. It may not protect the package." "I know." "Then why now?" Ethan signed his name. "Because I kept choosing what everyone else could survive. This is the first cause that belongs only to me." Vivian looked at the resignation, but did not take it. "You think leaving makes the decision clean?" "No. I think telling them makes it theirs." At 5:17, the board chair joined by speakerphone it. His voice filled the office without ever entering the factory. He instructed Vivian to sign the original closure order at 6. If she signed her amended order, the board would place her on administrative leave and challenge the transition funding. "And the severance?" Vivian asked. "Pending investigation. 85 employees did not alter the records. The records informed the package. The failure to audit them belongs to leadership." Choose your words carefully. Vivian looked through the glass at the workers assembling on the floor. "I am..." At 5:30, all 86 workers were present. Some stood in uniforms. Some had arrived in jeans, boots, or pajamas under winter coats. The night shift formed a loose line near the machines. Day shift filled the aisles. No one turned on lines 1 or 2. Line 3 sat silent after completing its target. The plant had never sounded so large. Rosa placed a microphone on a rolling work table. It was normally used for safety meetings. Ethan stood beside it with his badge and resignation in his pocket. Vivian remained several feet away, the 2 closure orders inside her portfolio. At 5:37, a worker called out, "Are we staying open?" No one answered. At 5:40, Ethan looked at Vivian. She did not nod. She did not stop him. At 5:43, he stepped to the microphone. "The post you saw was not authorized by Vivian Hale," he began. "She told us not to say the closure was being reconsidered. I approved that caption anyway." A murmur moved through the floor. Ethan continued. "The board froze the severance package because they found inaccurate maintenance records. Those records were changed by one person." He removed his badge. "Me?" The room did not react all at once. Confusion reached some faces before anger reached others. Ethan explained the 63 hours. He explained the 80% threshold. He explained the 6 weeks he believed he was buying and the package that became available during that time. He did not say he had done it for Mia. He did not say he would do it again. "Rosa did not know," he said. "The operators did not know. Vivian discovered it tonight. I decided that keeping hope alive mattered more than telling you what I was risking in your names." Nora stood near the front. "Would we have gotten the 12 weeks without what you did?" "No," Ethan said. "Will we get it now?" "I don't know." "So you saved it and endangered it?" "Yes." The answer satisfied no one. That was why it was finally useful. A welder from line 2 asked, "Are you fired?" Ethan placed the written resignation on the table. "I resigned effective at 6. I will cooperate with the review." No one else should carry what I changed. Another worker asked Vivian, "Did you know before tonight?" "No." "Were you really trying to save line 3? Vivian looked at the silent line. "I had a 90-day proposal for 31 jobs. It is now paused because of him. Because of the records, the unauthorized post, and the board's failure to verify either before tonight. There is enough responsibility to name accurately. I will not compress it into one person because that is convenient." The board chair's voice came through Vivian's phone. "Miss Hale, this discussion is not authorized." Vivian set the phone beside the microphone so everyone could hear. "That is part of the problem," she said. It was 5:51. Vivian opened her portfolio. "There are 2 orders." She explained them without legal language. The first closed everything. The package would remain frozen during investigation. The second closed lines 1 and 2, gave line 3 90 days to complete mid-states review, and preserve the benefits of anyone not involved in the false records. "If I sign the second," she said, "the board may suspend me and challenge the funding. 31 jobs are temporary, not saved. The rest of you still face separation or retraining," Rosa asked. "Do we get to choose which?" "Yes. 31 positions on line 3 will be posted under the transition agreement. 24 paid training places are available through the Regional Technical College. 31 employees may take the full separation package. No one has to decide this morning. And if the board blocks it, then my signature becomes evidence that the commitment was made while I still had authority. The board chair spoke again. Vivian, do not sign that document. For the first time, someone on the floor used her first name, not as affection, as a warning. The wall clock changed to 5:57. Vivian looked at Ethan. He had spent the night asking her to see the people behind the numbers. Then he had used both people and numbers when he believed the end justified it. She had spent 12 days protecting workers through plans they were not allowed to know. Then she had criticized Ethan for believing protection gave him the right to control the truth. Neither of them could undo those choices before 6. They could only decide who would own the next one. At 5:58, Vivian signed the amended order. She wrote the time beneath her name. At 5:59, she placed it on the rolling table. Lines 1 and 2 were closed. Line 3 entered a 90-day transition. The severance and health coverage remained authorized for employees not involved in the altered records. 24 retraining places would open Monday. 31 workers could choose voluntary separation. No one cheered. 31 temporary jobs were not 86 permanent ones. 24 training places did not erase mortgages. 12 weeks' pay did not turn a closure into good news. But the workers knew what existed, what did not, and what each choice would cost. At 6, the board placed Vivian on administrative leave pending review. At 6:02, Ethan's resignation took effect. At 6:04, Nora removed her safety glasses and asked when the written options would be available. Vivian said, "Before anyone leaves this building?" That was how the final hour began, not with a rescue, but with 86 people reading the same facts. 31 applied for the Line 3 transition team. 24 chose paid retraining. 31 accepted voluntary separation with 12 weeks' pay and 90 days of health coverage. The numbers added cleanly. The lives inside them did not. At 6:31, the main floor had begun to empty. Vivian stood beside the time clock wearing her coat again. Her steel-toe covers were on the bench. In one hand she held the time card Ethan had given her. It showed 11:47 p.m. in the first box and 6:03 a.m. in the second. Ethan approached without his badge. Vivian held out the card. "You gave me this because you thought I needed to see the people behind the numbers." Ethan looked at the amended closure order in her other hand. "I should have trusted them with the numbers, too." Vivian placed the time card on the bench between them. "When the review is over, there will be a seat at the transition table. Not a job, not forgiveness." She released the card, a choice. "Will you be there?" "If they let me." It was not a promise. Ethan nodded. He picked up the card only after she stepped away. At 7:08, he entered the small kitchen of the house he shared with Mia. She sat at the table in a sweatshirt, pretending she had not been listening for his truck. The robotics form lay under a school book. Ethan placed Vivian's time card beside it. Mia looked at the stamped hours. "Is the factory closing?" "Most of it." "Do you still have a job?" "No." She absorbed that without being told not to worry. What happens next? 31 people get 90 days on one line. 24 get paid training. 31 take the separation package. And you, I tell the truth in the review. After that, I may have a seat at the transition table. Mia touched the corner of her robotics form. The trip costs $240. There's also $20 for meals, and I need to leave Friday morning. Ethan did not tell her they would figure it out. He did not say she should have protected him from the cost. He pulled the form closer. "Tell me what the trip costs," he said. "All of it." Mia opened the form, and this time, neither of them protected the other with a lie.